One of the biggest blocks to this are premiers who think that leadership is denying people the chance to return to a normal life, denying people the chance to make a living, denying them the chance to make the most of the things that they have worked their entire life to build, because somehow their legacy in how they dealt with the virus is more important than any one of those citizens and what they have had to risk. Today, we didn't just get one, but three premiers who are completely tone deaf to their citizens, completely tone deaf to the necessity of bringing down the borders between our states to make sure that we can make the most of interstate trade and tourism. Australians are chomping at the bit to be able to go and celebrate the greatest country in the world. We want to see every corner of the map possible. As somebody who's been lucky enough to be able to go from places like Bathurst to Broome, to be able to go from Toowoomba to Townsville, from Townsville to Tamworth, from Burnie all the way to Byron Bay. Yes, even crazy Byron Bay. People want to go and see this beautiful country, but they're not going to be allowed to because of fools like this. Here's the Queensland Premier holding the line that no one can cross the border until September.
By July in Queensland, you can travel around Queensland. So then, of course, it makes sense that we would look at those borders in around August, September.
Let's be very clear here. Western Australia has a hard border closure. Northern Territory has a border closure. South Australia has a border closure. And Tasmania has a border closure. This is not unique to Queensland, folks.
So what? Just because somebody else is making a mistake doesn't mean you have to make a bigger and even better mistake to make you look like a hero. And by the way, we even learnt today, the real person who's running Queensland at the moment, the Chief Medical Officer in Queensland, who wants 0 cases for the rest of all time because she's got a guaranteed job, but bugger the people who work in regional tourism, bugger the people who have a restaurant, the people who own a pub can get stuffed. She's even saying that September might be too early.
I can't even commit that September will be possible. It depends what happens between now and then.
I'll tell you what's going to happen between now and then. There's going to be bugger all cases. Yes, when things start to get a little busier internally in a state, there might be an uptick. But there's not going to be thousands of brand new cases. So this idea that this health bureaucrat is more important than citizens who are about to go to the wall is insane to me. Now, I understand that Annastacia Palaszczuk thinks that there's a political up in this, that the longer she can give the daily coronavirus briefing, then somehow she looks better going into this year's state election. Well, let me give you a dose of reality, Premier, because I know you'll ignore everything I have to say. Listen to the citizens. Listen to the people who you are denying being able to earn a living, whose lives they have built up over decades are being torched because you want to starve the opposition of daily media coverage. I said she's not the only crazy one who's around. This is a Liberal Premier, Stephen Marshall from South Australia. He too has gone from bend the curve, slow the curve, to now 0 cases is what I need to open the borders. This is nuts.
We don't have a date on it at the moment, and it really does depend on how the other states perform. If the other states continue to increase their testing and increase their tracing capability, and they bring their new cases down and they eliminate their community transmission, then we'll be very quick to act. But at this stage, there is no chance that we'll be lifting those state borders anytime soon.
Do you know how many people are in hospital right now in South Australia with coronavirus? One. Not in intensive care, just one person in hospital. And that bloke's saying to all the business of the Barossa Valley, no, bugger you. My gold star's more important, just like Palaszczuk, where there are just 4 cases in hospital. In Western Australia, they too think that there is a gold star in pretending that there is the Commonwealth of Western Australia, a little country in and of itself. Do these people have any idea the pain that they are causing people? Like a bloke who called us a couple of nights ago. He's a FIFO worker. His family lives in Sydney. but he hasn't seen his family in weeks because if he goes back to see the family, under the stupid rules that are put in place by Mark McGowan, he has to spend 2 weeks not working, in quarantine, because he had the sin of going home to see his children. Yet he thinks, well, 85% of people say I'm doing awesome with the coronavirus, so I'll just keep jogging on.
I mean, New South Wales had the Ruby Princess. I mean, seriously? And they're trying to give us advice on our borders? Seriously? I mean, do you think I should listen to them? I'm not listening to them.
Like, seriously, what sort of old-school provisional bullshit is this? Where these people are trying to pretend that we can lock the borders within our own country so people can't freely move from regional areas of New South Wales that have no virus to regional areas of Western Australia that have no virus. And by the way, Premier, or should I say premiers collectively, we learnt today, not from a talkback radio host or an evil fat bloke on Sky News in prime time, but from the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, that there's no medical reason for the borders to still be locked up today, let alone next month or the month after or the month after, or I can't possibly guarantee September. Roll this tape.
From a medical point of view, I can't see why the borders are still closed, but as I said, that's for the states and territories themselves to decide when that timing is right for them.
This is madness. You need to do your bit. Rather than just nodding on watching television right now, you need to ring your local MP. You need to ring the Premier's office tomorrow. If it's your business that's suffering, they need to own it. If you own a pub in South Australia and you can't open, you need to do the obvious thing that you know you can do, which is get political. You need a sign out the front of your business saying, closed by Marshall. You need a sign out the front of your business, buggered because of Palaszczuk. You need to do this. You need to tell your fellow citizens that it is not the virus from Wuhan. It is not the control of the federal government. It is your state premier who is shutting you down and destroying citizens by the day. And believe it or not, it mightn't even be legal what they are doing. This was today in the Australian newspaper, where there are questions about whether or not these sorts of border closures are even legal under the Constitution. And under Section 92 of the Constitution, trade, commerce and the movement of people among the states, quote, shall be absolutely free. However, the High Court has had exceptions about the rule when it comes to defending public health. So, OK, when there were hundreds of cases, maybe that's the case. But how can you say you've got to keep the border closed when in South Australia 1 person's in hospital? In Queensland, when 4 people are in hospital? In the Northern Territory, where 2 people are in hospital? Or Western Australia, where 1 person is in hospital? 2 constitutional experts said this today, again in that Australian. It'll be much more difficult now that the huge number of coronavirus cases has significantly reduced. There's little community transmission to argue that you still need those borders shut. Another one. If we get to the point where the borders are closed but the justification is no longer strong, then good questions do need to be asked when these measures would become unconstitutional. Tonight we'll be joined by somebody who is willing to give you a lawyer to go and fight before the High Court. We'll get to that in a moment or two's time.